Hello, I'm reading from Hope on a Tightrope. This is Hope on a Tightrope, excuse me. This is book 2 for this month. I'm trying to do 2 books a month. I did a video on a section of it and it didn't come out. Instead of going back and doing it, I'm going to go forward in the book. Maybe that was a sign because this section is courage. It takes courage to interrogate yourself. It takes courage to look in the mirror and see past your reflection to who you really are when you take off the mask. When you're not performing the same old routines and social roles, it takes courage to ask, how did I become so well adjusted to injustice? It takes courage to cut against the grain and become non-conformist. It takes courage to wake up and stay awake instead of engaging in complacent slumber. It takes courage to shatter conformity and cowardice. The courage to love truth is one of the preconditions to thinking critically. Thinking for oneself is based on a particular kind of courage in which you hold truth, wisdom, and honesty in high esteem. The reason you want to think for yourself is because you understand that people often are not telling you the truth. When you place a high value on truth, you have to think for yourself. If you're unwilling to muster the courage to think critically, then someone will do the thinking for you, offering doublethink and double talk relief. People will apply a certain kind of pressure to push you into complacency and maybe even cowardice. It's not long before you rationalize this isn't really me. I don't really think this way, but let's go. As crucial and precious as the intellect is, it can become a refuge that hides and conceals emotional underdevelopment and diminishes your ability to think critically. What we need at this particular moment is to bring together those who are willing to muster the courage to think critically. Look at the basic assumptions of public discourse and critique the way our history is told. Get some water. When ordinary people wake up, elites begin to tremble in their boots. They can't get away with their abuse. They can't get away with subjugation. They can't get away with exploitation. They can't get away with domination. It takes courage for folk to stand up. American democracy is great precisely because you have had courageous, compassionate citizens who were willing to sacrifice, to think critically and connect with others to ensure that the Bill of Rights has had substance, that working people have had dignity, and that people of color have a status that ought to be affirmed. Think of the courage that went into that. February is a serious month because we start talking about Sojourner the Truth, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Martin Luther King Jr. We could talk about these freedom fighters without acknowledging white brothers like Elijah Parrish Lovejoy, an 1834 graduate of Princeton Theological Seminary. He was shot down like a dog by a pro-slavery mob because of his part in the abolitionist movement, fighting for a free press and affirming the Bill of Rights. Lydia Maria Child was a white sister who in 1883 wrote an appeal in favor of that class of Americans called Africans, in the same spirit as David Walker's great appeal. Asian sisters like Grace Lee Boggs, Jewish brothers like Harry Magdoff, well-to-do white brothers like Paul Sweezy, brown sisters like Dolores Huerta, brown brothers like Cesar Chavez, red brothers like Russell Means. We can go on and on. This is what makes a democratic tradition strong. The democratic tradition says what? Whosoever will let them come. It's critical to understand your history and then be true to oneself in such a way that one's connection to the suffering of others is an integral part of understanding yourself. This is a deep problem these days. To be great in our time too often means to have great material prosperity, and no moral magnanimity at all. If you don't muster the courage to think critically about your situation, you'll end up living a life of conformity and complacency. You'll lose very rich tradition that has been bequeathed to you by your foremothers and forefathers. Okay, so we'll stop there. But courage is important. You're going to have to dig. Some of us are going to have to dig deep, and some of us are not going to have been doing the digging. Those of us who, hold the book up, have been called strange, weird in our own world, and all these other things because we dared to think, are now at the point where we must think and help others to think, or at least offer them a way. A lot of people are going to reject it when they see the work that has to be done. When you've been rejecting thinking and thought and thoughtfulness for decades, and you're in your 30s and 40s, you're like, some people are going to be, a lot of people are going to be like, I'm too old. I'll just die. Rather than think it's going to be too hard. But I want to do it. And if you want to do it, then you'll be supporting my channel, my platforms. I thank you for the support. And I say until next time, take care of your minds, take care of your bodies, and be safe.